believe we're live. We made it. This is good. Welcome everybody who's in Facebook land, and welcome to all of you here tonight. This is a class I've actually been dreaming about doing for a long time. Okay, so Shannon Stewart is visiting us all the way from Milligan. Is that right? So out west somewhere. I can't say I've been there, but I think I want to go now. We've been talking about reducing toxins the first half of this year because really, if you look at again the chiropractic model for healthcare, is that subluxations are a cause of nerve interference in your body. They come from somewhere, but all loads in your body fall into one of three categories. There's physical things, right? So I sat in my chair wrong, I slept wrong, I fell down the stairs, I was in an auto accident, I texted for 2 hours. There's mental stress, which we all know what that's about, mental emotional stress. But then there's this chemical side of our bodies, which is, what's coming into it through food, water, and the things we may wash our hair with and take care of our skin with, right? And so even off gassing from new furniture, that new car smell isn't actually so good for you, as it turns out. So anyway, so this year I've just been blessed with running into a bunch of people, and I have my eyes and ears open all the time for what could we use to help move our patients in a direction. So I'm shopping for things at the YMCA's Art and Craft Fair in December, and for one of the first things I walked past is a booth that looks a lot like this, in fact, very much like this. And I stopped and I was like, well, that's cool. This is great. And I was immediately captured by some of the titles of some of these things, which we will show you in just a little bit. And I went and did my shopping, and then, of course, on the way out, I saw Shannon, and I said, hey, I need to talk to you. This looks like some great stuff. I'm actually trying to help my patients have some options here as far as, taking care of themselves in a healthier way. Because we know this is a big deal. I'm going to hand out an article. Aaron's going to have them for you. This is that article I was referring to where they have found that in newborns all over the country, in some cases, there's over 200 chemicals in their umbilical cords. So even before they're born, they're getting a toxic load from mom, which is really sad. Okay, so I'll give this copy to you to keep there, Sarah. And Aaron will bring the rest around for you guys. Here you are. Yes, once you just pass these around to show you that this is starting very early in life, and we have to make sure we're reducing a load. We'll never be free of it completely, I don't think, because just the way our culture is. But if you can at least reduce it, say 75, 80%, you've given yourself such a better thing because it's actually tied to not just certain diseases, but even just hormonal imbalance in our bodies and things like that too. So when I saw Shannon's business, it's called Locust and Wild Honey, and I thought to myself, that sounds like a cool thing. I think there's somebody who I know pretty famous who actually ate that by the name of somebody the Baptist, right? And so anyway, I got talking to Shannon. I just really have fallen in love with her products and her whole business model. And so for those of you who are here today, you're going to get a chance to see how she makes these, why she does it the way she does. I know that anytime I see something that's made this well, there's always a story behind why they did it. There's usually a very strong personal story, and I don't even know it yet. Shannon's going to share it tonight, which is really cool. So I wanted to let you guys know that because you're here now, unfortunately, those who are in Facebook land won't get this, but there'll be a chance for you to come and check it out afterwards and get some if you want to. And she's agreed to reduce the price by all of them by $1 if you're here. And for those of you who attended live tonight, you're going to get a freebie from me too. Okay, and that will actually come from these. I want to show you what caught my eye. So if you're from a certain generation, and my cousin Robbie, I'm going to pick on her because we were born one day apart. These soaps, one's called Eye of the Tiger. Okay, one's called Raspberry Beret, right? Sharp Dressed Man. So we're 80s kids. Okay, pretty cool stuff. Now, what I didn't see Shannon have, she doesn't have Leonard Skinner's "Ooh, That Smell." That's not in there, okay? Which is good. All right, but there it is. But I don't want to waste any more time of hers, and so let's give it up for Shannon Stewart. You go, Shannon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Hello, my name is Shannon Stewart, and I'm from Milligan, Nebraska. It's a small town, about 285 people, so technically we're called a village, not a town. It's 60 miles southwest of Lincoln, by town Geneva. You probably have heard of Geneva. So I want to take a minute to thank Turning Point Chiropractic for inviting me to speak here today, as well as to all of you who are taking time out of your busy schedules to be here to listen to what I have to say. It's not every day I get to speak to a captive audience about soap. But seriously, it's my sincere hope that everyone here this evening will potentially learn something they didn't know about soap and soap making as well, and walk away with a greater appreciation of the truly miraculous substance that soap is. My personal journey in soap making started around the beginning of 2016, and it really isn't that exciting. So before we delve too deeply into that, while I still have your attention, I want to start with something really fascinating. A brief, well, maybe not so brief, history of soap. It really is interesting, I promise. And then you can sleep through the rest. Most of you have probably never even questioned where soap came from, or how it was discovered. There certainly wasn't any history of soap 101 classes in high school. It has just been something that has always been part of your life, and you probably never really even paid that much attention to it other than the smell. I know I never did until I delved into this addictive, soapy underworld. It is believed that soap got its name from an ancient Roman tale that took place on a hilly area in Italy called Mount Sapo. The ancient legend tells a story about women washing their garments in a certain area of the Tiber River below the mountain. As the folktale unfolds, we find out that on this mountain is where the populace would go to sacrifice animals to various Roman gods. A simple yet significant discovery came from these offerings, which would reshape customs and cultures for centuries to come. From the altar, melted fats from the animals would chemically combine with the ashes from the burned wood. This substance would then run down the hillside into the river. For those of you in the room who do not happen to be soap nerds, lye, also known as sodium hydroxide, is a byproduct from burning wood. By running water through ashes or charred wood, you can create your own lye water for soap making. I have never actually tried this method myself, but I can buy it granulated in a plastic bottle, which is a whole lot easier. But it is good information to know in case you ever go on the show Survivor and have to make your own soap. But I digress. So back to the story. The washwomen at the base of the river found that this area of the river was most conducive for washing clothes and furs, due to the soap slurry entering this part of the river and effectively creating a very primitive type of washing machine. Whether or not this tale is 100% accurate is up for debate. However, many languages have derived the name for the word soap from the word sapo. In Italian, it's called sapone, in French, savon, and in English, of course, soap. The first known written mention of soap dates back to about 2500 BC, which was found on Sumerian clay tablets. Ancient Sumeria was located near the area of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is now currently known as southern Iraq. Another Sumerian tablet dating to 2200 BC mentions a soap formula using water, alkali, and cassia, another name for cinnamon, cassia oil, which is remarkably similar to the formulas still used today. We have all heard stories or seen pictures of the luxurious Roman baths that were built around 312 BC. The Romans, along with the Greeks, honored the philosophy that the body was a gift from God and should be maintained with high regard. Enthralled by bodily cleanliness and sanitation, elaborate public baths and toilets were constructed. The Greek physician Galen contributed to this bathing fetish. He was quite aware of the merits of soap for maintenance of health. In the 2nd century AD, he made literary references to soap and prescribed washing with it as a means to carry away impurities from clothes and the body. Further archaeologic exploration in soap history reveals the existence of large, fully equipped soap manufacturing pavilions that were discovered while excavating the ruins of Pompeii, the city southwest of Italy that was buried in lava and ash from the volcanic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. The fall of the Roman Empire around 467 AD resulted in the collapse of the popularity and availability of bathing and the use of soap. This foreshadows the beginning of the era of the Great Unwashed, otherwise known as the Dark Ages. Throughout most of Europe during this time, bathing fell out of fashion and was considered an instrument of the devil. I tried to read how to seal and waterproof concrete, or C. Money was diverted from building elaborate bathing facilities and were instead used to build ornate cathedrals and churches instead. This resulted in unsanitary conditions, which contributed greatly to the devastating plagues of the Middle Ages. There were, however, prescription baths taken during these medieval times, They were mostly a concoction of perfume oils, herbs, pine needles, and bark. The complexity of soap was not a necessary component. Many non European cultures retained their bathing traditions, though it wasn't until several centuries later that bathing would come back into fashion in Europe. The medical research discovery of bacteria came in the late 1600s. Through the more significant findings are from Louis Pasteur in 1865. His studies of bacteria spurred the theory that microbes were the cause of disease. Due to a better understanding of the role hygiene and the promotion of popular awareness of the relationship between cleanliness and health, industrial manufactured soap bars became available in the late 18th century. So I'm going to take a little time out here and talk a little bit about how soap works. This is a very simplified version, but I think you will get the picture. Soap doesn't actually kill germs on our hands, it removes them. Germs and dirt stick to the oils and grease on our hands. Sounds kind of yucky, but it's totally normal. Water alone won't remove much of the germs on our hands because water and oil don't mix. So the oil and the water don't like each other, so they won't mix. But soap likes both water and oil. That's because soap molecules are a type of a surfactant, which means they have one end that's water loving or hydrophilic and one end that's oil loving or hydrophobic. When you wash your hands with soap and water, the soap molecules act as a mediator between the water and the oil molecules and bind both of them at the same time. And when you rinse everything off, the soap carries away the germs and the dirt with the water. So just because it doesn't kill the germs doesn't mean that it isn't effective. I found this following quote from an article in Time magazine, and I thought it was appropriate. Quote, the importance of soap is significantly underestimated and underutilized because it suffers from a fundamental PR problem. It cleans away something you can't see. Soap saves the life of a healthy person, oblivious to the bullet they dodged. So, despite not only saving more lives than penicillin and enabling our modern urban existence, we still underrate what is perhaps the greatest medical discovery in human history. Unquote. Now back to the program. For most of the 19th century and into the early 20th century, soap companies made real soap. But in the early 1900s, German engineers discovered an alternate cleaning product, a synthetic called detergent. Detergent roughly means in Latin to wipe away. This discovery was driven primarily in response to the shortage of fats for making soaps during World War I. Commonly known as detergents today, synthetic detergents are non-soap washing and cleaning products, which are put together chemically or are synthesized. The invention of detergents was also driven by the need for a cleaning agent, which, unlike soap, would not combine with the mineral salts in water to form an insoluble substance that we call soap curd or soap scum on the fabrics. Detergents don't contain any soap. Instead, they use enzymes that lift stains off clothing and skin. American companies adopted and refined detergents, mixing ingredients to create surfactants, which, like soap, allowed dirt and grease to be pulled off objects being cleaned and into the water. The reason for the move away from soap was simple, says Greg McCoy, Procter & Gamble's corporate activist. Detergents clean better. And I personally would argue are cheaper, faster, and easier to produce. The result isn't the result is that what you're calling soap today probably isn't, at least not completely. Soap is actually a highly regulated term by the FDA. To meet the definition of soap in the FDA's regulations, a product has to meet three conditions. And this comes directly from the FDA's website. What it's made of. To be regulated as soap, the product must be composed mainly of the alkali salts of fatty acids. That is the material you get when you combine fats or oils with an alkali such as lye. What ingredients cause its cleaning action? to be regulated as soap, those alkali salts of fatty acids must be the only material that results in the product's cleaning action. If the product contains synthetic detergents, it's a cosmetic and not a soap. How it's intended to be used. To be regulated as soap, it must be labeled and marketed only for use as soap. If it's intended for purposes such as moisturizing the skin, making the user smell nice, or deodorizing the body, it's a cosmetic. So basically, I can't make any medicinal claims about soap, or I would be violating the USDA's regulations. If the product is intended to treat or prevent disease such as killing germs or treating skin conditions such as acne or eczema, it's a drug. You, so the FDA goes on to say that most body cleansers, both liquid and solid, are actually synthetic detergent products. Detergent cleansers are popular because they make suds easily in water and don't form gummy deposits. Some of these detergent products are actually marketed as soap, but are not true soap according to the regulatory definition of the word. A prime example of this is Dove Beauty Bar. Are you shocked? Yeah, I was too. But if you notice the packaging, nowhere on the wrapper does it ever call itself soap, because legally it can't. So beware of anything using terms like cleanser, body bar, body wash, beauty bar, skincare bar, or even deodorant soap. These are most likely detergents masquerading as soap. And they also say that you could have a detergent, but you might have some additional ingredients that you also use in soap. So it can be very misleading when you're trying to decipher this whole whole I don't know what you'd call it. Um, truth in labeling. Thank you. By the year 1953, the sale of detergents in the US had surpassed those of soap and have all but replaced soap based products that were used for laundering, dishwashing, and household cleaning. They have also integrated themselves into many of the bars and liquids used for personal cleaning. I am old enough to remember being raised in a bathtub with a bar of soap. We currently have a whole generation now who have been raised almost exclusively on body wash. Some maybe have never even used bar soap. Sounds crazy, right? Now, I'm not here to argue if soap is better than detergent or vice versa. I do think that each of them have a purpose and are better suited to do different tasks. But in my personal opinion, I think handmade soap is by far superior to be used to cleanse the body, and detergents are highly more effective in laundry and other cleaning jobs. Skin is the largest organ, accounting for 15% of your body weight. A lot of times we think about what we are putting into our body, but very rarely do we talk about what we are putting onto our body. I'm sure you've all heard where if you rub garlic on your feet, a few minutes you'll taste it. So, just how much of the toxic gunk is entering our skin? We have approximately 2 million pores across our skin. 2 million. And unlike food, which has an opportunity to filter out the things that don't belong through our digestive system, our skin doesn't quite work in the same way. You may have heard that about 60% of what we put onto our skin directly is absorbed into our bloodstream. But that can depend on a variety of factors. One being chemical size. Large chemicals often cannot pass through our skin's protective barriers. However, certain chemicals are just small enough to squeeze through, while others are developed to penetrate the skin quickly as medicinal patches or nanoparticles in sunscreens and lotions. Skin temperature can also affect the absorption rate. The higher the skin temperature, the higher the increased absorption through the skin. Skin integrity. Is the skin damaged or intact? Damaged skin absorbs more quickly and allows larger particles to sneak through. Chemical concentration. How much of the chemical or combination of chemicals is being applied? The larger the amount or number of chemicals, the greater the risk. Exposure length. How long is the chemical in contact with the skin? The longer the exposure, the greater the risk. Area of the skin being exposed. Scalp, face, arms. Different areas of the body absorb more than others, depending on the thickness and temperature of the skin. So take a moment and ask yourself how many products you use in a typical day. Lotion, deodorant, soap, perfume, makeup, lip balm, shampoo, conditioner, hairspray. Now ask yourself how many ingredients are in those products. According to a survey conducted by the Environmental Working Group, the average person uses 9 products daily, which contain 126 unique ingredients. Again, most of which I cannot pronounce. I could go through a list of potential ingredients to avoid, but that is probably a lecture all by itself, and most of you probably already have a good idea of what some of those are. It may seem overwhelming to make changes, but like with anything else in life, start small, make one change at a time, and build from there. And that is why I think taking a look at your daily bathing routine is an easy place to start. Why use natural handmade soap? Let me give you a few reasons. Number one, natural soap is highly moisturizing. One of the benefits of using real soap is that one of the byproducts of the production process is glycerin. Glycerin is an excellent skin moisturizer because it attracts moisture to itself and to the skin. Traditionally made soaps contain glycerin, and so they hydrate the skin during bathing, whereas many commercially manufactured soaps can dry the skin out. Why? Because store-bought commercially produced soaps usually undergo a process designed specifically to remove the glycerin. Instead of leaving this byproduct that occurs naturally during the soap making process in the soap to benefit your skin, it is extracted and used in other skincare products, such as moisturizers and similar skincare products, which you will need more of if you use their soap, since it had the glycerin removed. Soap devoid of glycerin can leave the skin dry, itchy, and far from looking its best. So if you've had bad experiences with store-bought soap, I would encourage you to give handmade soap a try. You might be surprised. Number two, they don't use preservatives. Bar soap is shelf stable, so there's no need to use any sort of chemical preservatives. Number three, better ingredients are used. When a company manufactures hundreds of thousands or even millions of bars of soap at a time, part of the profit margin is gained from mass production, and part is gained from using the cheapest products available. And these are often synthetic substitutes for the real thing. Many believe that these synthetic products can sometimes be damaging to the endocrine, reproductive, respiratory, and immune systems, not to mention the potential damage they do by drying out your skin. Commercial soaps are known to regularly contain parabens, sulfates, and triclosan, which are thought to trigger allergies, influence hormone levels, and possibly increase the risk of some cancers. Natural soaps, however, usually use natural ingredients like olive oil, coconut oil, cocoa butter, goat milk, honey, and tallow. These are believed to be very healthy and nourishing for the skin. I personally also like to include essential oils when I can, clays for detoxification of the skin, food powders rich in nutrients, and botanicals. I have chosen not to use any artificial colors in my soaps and instead use natural products to add the desired coloring to keep the soaps more natural. I tell people that I try to keep everything in my soap edible. So basically, you could eat every ingredient in the soap other than the lye and the fragrances. Number four, unique and handmade product. Mass-produced commercial soaps are made for efficiency of production, which means many, many units of the exact same size and composition. Focus is on profit, often at the expense of the health of the consumers who pay for them. Handmade soap bars are different in that they do vary slightly from bar to bar, just as natural ingredients vary slightly depending on a given year's weather and other conditions. Where they do not vary, however, is in the lack of harmful ingredients and the abundance of healthy ones that are in each bar. Number 5, they're better for the environment. Handmade soaps do not produce harmful environmental poisons or toxins. The soaps break down more easily and after use, and they do not harm the water cycle or the wildlife that shares the water in our rivers, lakes, and oceans. This eco friendliness would be a strong argument for using handmade natural soaps, even if all else was equal. An added bonus is the minimal packaging that ends up in the landfill or the recycling bin. Number 6, they are rich in antioxidants. The ingredients used in handmade soaps include many that are high in natural antioxidants, and since the process doesn't extract these substances for other purposes, handmade soaps can actually help to repair the skin by reducing inflammation, keeping skin hydrated, and therefore helping the user to have younger looking, healthier skin. The gentler pH levels of handmade soaps, usually between 9 and 10, help care for your skin in the long term, as well as keep you looking and feeling clean and fresh. I can't make any claims that the soap will cure various ills or will solve all of the world's problems, but I can give you personal statements from other people who have used handmade soaps and their observations as to the benefits. I had one lady tell me that my soaps are the only one her husband can use that doesn't make his skin itch. Another person told me that using soaps have helped take the sting out of sunburn. I have tried it and I have noticed this as well. When I get a cat scratch, it will get really red around the scratch. If I wash the area with soap as soon as I can, it noticeably reduces the inflammation around the scratch. So now that we have gone over some of the benefits of soap, how do we care for it? Here are a few tips to get the most out of each and every bar. Number 1, keep your soap bar dry between uses. Soap that is left sitting in a pool of water will get soft and melt. If you are able, store it on a high shelf or on the other end of your shower away from the water. Handmade soap is all natural and doesn't contain hardening ingredients like commercial bars, so they can get ruined if left standing in water. I recommend draining excess water with a slotted soap dish so that it allows the water to drain away. Air circulation is key, so keep your soap dish um, above the water level and something that has holes so the water can drain through. Number 2, store your soap and when it's the bars you're not using in a cool, dark place. Prolonged exposure to UV rays tend to break down the nutrients and subtle hues from the botanicals. As tempting as it is to display your soap, it's better to store it in a cool, dark area until ready for use. Storage in a dry place away from humidity will help the soap maintain its hard form. A linen closet is a great place to store it. And number 3, use within 1 year from opening. Handmade soap has no set shelf life, but like fine wine or cheese, soap gets better with a little aging. Time mellows the bar and allows it to get harder, helping it to last longer in the shower. Soap may be able to last for years, but to ensure the liveliness of aroma and to enjoy its peak goodness, try to use it within 1 year from the time of purchasing. And the last tip, buy some for you and some for gifts. Just made that one up. But extra soap is great to have on hand for those last minute gifts that pop up unexpectedly. So now that we have covered the history of soap, as well as the reasons and tips for using handmade soap, I'm going to switch gears and tell you a little bit about my personal journey. I told you at the beginning that it started in 2016, but my actual journey started back in 2012. That was the year I got into beekeeping. I was lucky enough to have someone I knew that had been a beekeeper and was patient and willing enough to share their knowledge. So, after a few years of beekeeping, I had stocked away this most wonderful beeswax from the cappings of the honey. For those of you who are not bee nerds, well, you should be. But seriously, cappings are what bees use to seal the honey into the comb. To extract the honey, you have to shave these cappings off so that the honey will run out. I began researching what to do with the beeswax and decided to start making lotion bars and lip balms that I sold at local craft shows. I really enjoyed getting out among people, sharing my love for bees, and I was looking for ways to expand my craft show offerings. I decided I was going to teach myself how to make soap. I had been interested in learning how to make soap for several years, but decided that it was going to be a New Year's resolution, and in 2016 was the year I was going to teach myself how to make soap. So I bought a book with soap making recipes and read stuff on the internet for tips and tricks for making soap, and then ordered some supplies. I also watched several YouTube videos so you can watch the actual process of how to make the soap. I always tell my kids they live in the most amazing time. I always tell my kids that they live in the most amazing time to be alive ever. Yes, there's crazy stuff going on all the time, but when in the history of mankind have you ever had the ability to learn a new language, teach yourself a new skill, all at the touch of your fingertips? There are a couple of different ways to make soap. The two ways are cold process and hot process. Cold process soap involves mixing the fats with lye at low temperatures. Such soap is made at room temperature without additional heating. The saponification process generates its own heat, but takes a long time, up to 48 hours after the soap mass is poured into the mold. The soap reaches its target hardness after 4 to 6 weeks. Hot process soap begins just like cold process soap, where lye is combined with the fats and mixed with a blender until it reaches a pudding-like consistency. Then the soap is made in a container like crock pot and heated. You essentially cook this soap mixture through the saponification process. By using this method, you are able to observe the different phases that the soap goes through. This cooking process usually takes about an hour. The main difference between hot process and cold process is that in theory, hot process soap is ready to be used almost immediately after you make it and does not have to go through a curing process. Which process is better is just a matter of opinion. I have opted to go with the hot process because I like the idea of being able to have everything completed in one evening. For me, the whole process from measuring out the ingredients to being done with cleanup takes about 4 hours. And in pretty small scale, I usually make about 30 bars of soap in one evening. So then I let the soap sit in the mold overnight, and in the morning I take the soap out of the mold and let it sit for a week before I cut it into bars. Even though the soap is ready to use after making, I still let the soap sit on a drying rack for 3 weeks before wrapping it. This helps the soap dry out and make it harder and last longer. Some people say that hot process soap has a more rustic look to it, and that cold process looks a little bit more refined. But the end product of both still results in a good bar of soap. One of the reasons I like hot process is that I can add my additives at the end of the cooking phase so that they do not have to go through the saponification process. I feel that it helps maintain more of the good skin nourishing nutrients by letting the soap cool down somewhat before mixing them in. Therefore, there is less of a chance for them to be degraded by heat and chemical reactions during the saponification process. After I made my first batch of soap, I was hooked. I was a nonstop soap making machine. Needless to say, everyone I knew got bars of soap whether they wanted them or not. Eventually, I got comfortable enough to start experimenting with my own soap recipes and was able to build from there. After I felt that I actually had a product that I was confident enough in, I felt ready to sell. So, my first step was to look for insurance. In this day and age, it's a good idea to have some sort of insurance policy to protect yourself. This took a little investigating, but the self crafting industry has come a long way in the last few years. I initially checked with my regular insurance guy, but he didn't really have anything that fit my needs. So back to the internet I went, and I was able to find a business called Indie Business Network that sells insurance to small home businesses like mine. The next step was to start an online presence. After some research, I ended up going with a website called Equid. They are able to link my web page directly to my Facebook page. I really needed to be better about social media to expand my business, but everything takes time. I do have my products in two businesses on a consignment basis, one in Milligan, Nebraska called the Rustic Twig, which is a home decor, floral, and boutique shop, and the other is in Fairbury, Nebraska called Bella Rose, which is a coffee shop and boutique. So that's a little bit about my journey. I would like to open it up now to any questions any of you may like to ask about soap business, other products that I have.
Once you start with that one, why don't you tell me the things you have besides soap here?
Sure. Okay, so initially I started with the beeswax products. So this little guy is what's in the tin. So the heat from your hands melts off a layer and you rub it into your skin like you would lotion. But the beeswax forms a protective barrier and actually locks moisture into your skin to help prevent the bleeding cracks that you get in the winter time. A lot of people even use it on their heels so they don't get those dry cracks in their heels that can be really painful. So this is what started it all, the beeswax products. And then this is the same product, but it's in a tube and it screws up from the bottom so you can apply it without using your hands or to hard to reach areas like your heels. And then I also had the lip balms. So each compartment contains a different scent. I scent my lip balms rather than flavor them because the flavor just makes me hungry. So from there, I started with the bar soaps. And I try to have new scents every season. I cycle some in and out. Some are pretty good sellers, so I try to keep them on hand all the time. My most popular man soap is probably the Sharp Dressed Man. The women's is probably the Purple Rain. And so from there, I ventured into liquid soap. That is a challenge. You want a good challenge, liquid soap. That took a long time. So my liquid soaps are actually foaming soaps. They come in a little pump. This is a refill bottle, so you can reuse your pump. There's two refills. It'll refill this bottle twice. With the water-based products, since I do have water added to the liquid soaps, I do have to use a preservative in those just for safety reasons, but it is eco certified, which it meets the organic standards. So I try to, if I can keep my preservatives natural, I try to go with natural preservatives that are effective. Some of them aren't, but um, yeah. So anyway, liquid soap is a whole beast that we're not going to get into tonight. Then I started with the lotions. Actually, I just bought a kit. A lot of your soap making supply places have kits if you want to teach yourself how to make candles or how to make lotions or even beeswax products. You can buy this kit. Everything you have is in it, and you can just follow the instructions and learn how to make it. And I was really intimidated by lotions, so I did buy the kit, taught myself how to make it, and then from there expanded out with the lotions. It's all the same recipe, just different scents. The soaps, I do have 4 different recipes that I use. I don't know why. I like variety, I guess. So and then my last product, this just came out this last season, are the body washes. And you're all going, detergents? No. But it's actually kind of a hybrid. And I know there are people who, despite however good I fluff up bar soap, they're just never going to use bar soap. And that's okay, you know. So I tried to bring in a natural body wash. It starts with an organic base. And I do So I didn't like the liquid soap as a body wash, and I didn't like the organic base as a body wash, but I felt if I combined them together, I got a product that I was happy with. So it's kind of a hybrid. It does contain some liquid soap, but it also contains detergent. So anyway, so those are the products that I'm currently offering. And do you have any questions about any of those? Yes. So the body wash, so this is actually liquid soap. You make a paste. So it goes through the same saponification process as bar soap, but you use a different type of lye. Bar soap uses sodium hydroxide. Liquid soap uses potassium hydroxide. So the difference in the lye is what keeps one of them more pliable and one of them harder. So then I make the paste just like I do in the crock pot. I cook it and then I dilute the paste into a liquid form, which enters into the bottles. And then I scent it and do all sorts of that type of stuff. So the body wash is actually, I buy a big jug of this organic body wash. And it's made with, they're organic ingredients, but they're still, synthetic, but they meet the organic standards. Um, so then I take that base of the wash and I mix it with some of the liquid soap. So it's kind of a combination of both. This is purely just soap, and this is a combination of detergent and soap. Uh huh. Mm-hmm. Well, I would say detergents are basically all the same. They all work the same. Some of them maybe are more harsher than others. So, with your body, you're going to want to go with something a little bit not as harsh as something you would to clean your car or your laundry. So, there are different types of surfactants is what they call them. There's a lot of different surfactants and how they're derived. So it's gets kind of complicated when you start discussing the different types of detergents because there are so many different ways to produce them. So some of them come from coconuts, some of them come from petroleum products, some of them come from, other oils and substances. It's just how they're chemically produced. Mm-hmm. Right, right. So it's causes less skin irritation. But I guess one thing I forgot in my little speech is soap is actually a chemical reaction. So you take oils or fats and you add that to the lye, and it becomes a completely different substance. So, like oxygen and hydrogen form to become water. There's not any oxygen or hydrogen there, it's all combined into water. So basically that's what soap is. It has created a new product. It's a new um, substance. There is, if made correctly, no traces of lye left in the soap. And that comes down to measuring and making sure you're cooking it long enough or letting it cure long enough. So any I shouldn't say any, properly made soap will not contain any leftover sodium hydroxide or lye in it. It should all be used up by the oils. And a lot of times, soap makers will do what's called super fatting, where you add extra fats in there. So to make sure that all of the lye gets used up, and then you have extra fats in there, which help moisturize your skin and give it a good feeling on your skin. So yeah, I can produce soap in my kitchen. I can't produce detergents in my kitchen. So detergents I have to buy from chemical companies because they're synthetically produced. I don't think anybody can produce detergents in their kitchen. No, it was a good question. No, I'm glad. No. Hmm. 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 Right. Yes. Sorry, that's not right. That's the wrong term. But or wrong. So was it like that, or was it like, oh, there's a best practices where if you cook it for this long, you'll get rid of this percentage of the lye. If you combine it with this, you'll get rid of this percentage of the lye. Yes. So that's, we live, like I said, in a great time right now because in the old days when you had to run your water through your ashes, you had no idea how strong they were, how if you got enough in there. Now they have perfected the lye making process so much that I buy it. I mean, it looks like drain cleaner. Basically, lye is drain cleaner. They do have what's called food grade lye. I'm not sure what makes a food grade because you're not going to eat it, but it comes in little, it looks like sand, and you can measure out the exact amount that you need. So there are things on soap websites called lye calculators where you can go in and they've done all the hard work for me. They've determined how much lye it needs to saponify cocoa butter or olive oil. So each fat that you have requires a different amount of lye to activate it. And so all I have to do is go in and type in what I want to use and how much of it, and it'll give me the exact measurement of lye. I can even add a super fat in there and it'll calculate for me the additional super fat. So yeah, we've got it so easy. And that's why I think a lot of people do have bad memories of grandma's handmade soap because it probably was harsh because, she had no way of knowing how much lye was actually in it. And probably clean the clothes really good, but your body probably not so much. So, yeah, good question. Thank you. So, yeah.
Here's what we'll do. Since it's 7:15, let me just do this real quick. So that's also probably why grandma's soap, when you said a naughty word, it gets stuck in your mouth. It was really harsh there too, right? Um, but I would think the best way to really see what this is like is to experience it. So what we're going to do is we're going to sign off for the Facebook broadcast. Real quickly, guys, what I said was that up to 20 people coming tonight, every one of you is going to get a bar of soap. That's on us. Okay. So let them know, Shannon, know so I can keep. You want to, Aaron, keep track of who's getting which one? Sure. And we'll be sure we get here. Shannon paid for that. But yeah, but yeah, please, and if you want to get something else for you guys, she has some bags there. These make great gifts. Every person I've given to has been very happy, especially my 80s friends. They love it. So sorry about that for folks who are here, but she does have the ability to order online. Do you want to tell them a little bit how that is, Shannon, how people can order for
Yes.
not here tonight?
So I have my brochures, not specifically these, but the ones you were handing out earlier, has my Facebook page on there. And I also have a website. So either one of those, you can go to my Facebook page and hit the Shop Now button, or you can go directly to my web page and order off of there. So
yeah, it's a very different feel when you use these at first. It's not what you're used to with the kind of the harsher cleaning things, but it really feels good once you get used to it. It's very non-drying, which is great, especially in winter.
Yeah, and
especially
after 2 months, you will notice your skin change. You really will. I know it's me here selling soap, but honestly, you will notice your skin change after 2 months of using natural handmade soaps.
Yeah. So thanks for watching, everybody in Facebook land, and thanks you guys for being here live tonight. Please come up and